review the audit plan with the independent auditors upon completion of the audit, meet with the independent auditors to discuss the results of the audit, the management lender, and the annual financial reports. For that part of number 4, we are looking at fiscal year 20. And I see it as looking at the results of the audit, the management letter, and any annual financial reports for what has just been completed with the auditors. And I just have to ask, yesterday I requested that a copy of the fiscal, where we were in the timeline for fiscal year 20 audit. And what I got back from Jim was the audit, the management letter and audit report. And I asked him to forward it to both of you. Did you receive it from him?
When you say Jim, you're talking about the administrator?
I'm talking about the town administrator, yes.
Yeah, he was after my time, so okay. No, I didn't receive anything from him.
Did you, Lynn? Did you receive the fiscal year 20 audit report? I don't know if you heard me. Lynn, did you receive the fiscal year 20 audit report?
No.
No. Okay, then if it's okay with both of you, I didn't want to forward it without, I didn't want to break any open meeting law. So if it's okay with both of you, I assume I can forward it to both of you, correct?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So actually, I have, excuse, is that you, Lynn?
No.
No, Joan Savoy.
Joan, I'm not going to take questions right now. I'm going to let our meeting go. So I'm going to forward an email right now to my fellow members. Well, actually, let me do it after the meeting. I do have that report, and I'll forward it to you after the meeting. So
Veronica, could I ask you a question? Is that a public document?
I don't know. I assume it is, but I don't know.
Yeah, if it's a public document, then anybody who's watching the video can get it themselves. If it's not, then because it's an open meeting we're having, it has to be made available to people who are watching.
It's a public document. It is a public document.
Perfect. So we don't have to provide copies to any of the people watching.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what.
All right. So I
was expecting some comments from Ms. Savoy about that.
Oh, Joan, go ahead. I didn't know comments were expected. So are you good with that, Dave?
Yeah. That's why I just wanted to, if it was public, just to make sure that we're not stepping on anybody's toes.
No, my comment was that I put in a request for the 2019 audit and management letter, and I got the response today that they do not have it. And since there is no town accountant, they don't have access to it, and it should be posted online, and it is not. Neither is 2020. That's my comment.
That's above and outside of our scope of responsibility, Joan.
No, I know that. I just thought you'd be interested to know.
Okay. So, all right. So that's fiscal year 19. Fiscal year 20, I'm assuming is a public document. So yeah. So I will check on that. I will forward it to both of you. Perfect. And anybody else can get it. So, so that's number 4. And I'm going to go on to number 5 and then we'll discuss. Number 5 said the audit committee shall transmit a copy of the completed annual audited financials and management letter report to the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee. I will tell you that after I asked him yesterday where we were in the audit process for fiscal year 20, that he forwarded the audited financials and management letter to me, and he also forwarded it to the Board of Selectmen. So this says the audit committee shall transmit a copy of the completed annual audit financials and management letter report to the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee, and with the assistance from the auditing firm, if so desired, shall present the results of the annual audited financials and management letter report to a jointly held public meeting of the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee. So what I see our task being this year is reviewing the fiscal year 20 report, discussing it amongst ourselves, and if we need to, with the auditing firm. It's Melanson and Heath, who I believe has typically done the audits for the town. Present the results to a jointly held public meeting of the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee. So that's what I see us doing for fiscal year 20. And then for fiscal year 21, going forward and developing the auditing plan and choosing the firm. So that's how I read this. I was wondering if either of you read it differently or have any comment on what I see.
Yeah, you preempted me on some of the information you just said, Veronica. When you asked me to be a part of this committee, I always thought, you know, when I was in your seat, I always thought there was an auditing committee that went through the finance documents and did it every year. I always thought that. But our position is not to interrupt what's going forward today, but next year is to maybe pick another firm, another auditing firm, or continue with the one that if we're happy with. Is that, I thought the main thrust of our obligation was to actually, under number 4, audit committee shall solicit, interview, and recommend to the Board of Selectmen a firm of independent auditors. I thought that was the main thrust of what our responsibility was. But right now, there's already an audit going forward, correct?
That is correct, and I believe
Yeah.
it's been completed.
Yeah.
Because there is a management letter and the other part of
The
that.
engagement letter, all that stuff, yeah.
I haven't
So
seen the engagement letter, but
So
yeah.
we're just jumping in on the tail end of it, but next year we're going to be taking more of a leadership role in selecting the auditing firm. Is that your thought?
That's my understanding.
Okay, okay.
Because I don't know the timeline. Maybe you do, Dave. I don't know when the process begins of choosing the auditors and going forward. If the audit happened between when we were appointed and now, which apparently it did, then what we're looking for that piece of it is next year's audit, and then working with. And my feeling is that because the one for this year just completed, according to this, there's no timeline in this policy. It seems to me that we would pick up that audit. And I at least would learn from doing that.
Okay.
You know, so I don't.
Yeah, when I was in your seat, it's an audit that just happened. You know, Greg Barnes and Andy Sheen at the tail end of my tenure would get involved in it. They'd get it started. We'd look at the management letter, the engagement letter. We'd get that signed, and then it would just happen. You know, I don't recall if we ever went out for 3 competitive bids on that or not. I don't recall.
I never saw an engagement letter or anything like that going forward for the audit that's going on in fiscal year 20. So that's all I'll say.
Yeah, I think you should have probably, as a selectman, you probably should have had that administrative authority to sign that and commit the town to the auditing committee, to the auditing firm.
Again, maybe I did and just
Yeah.
wasn't
No,
aware
it's
of
strange that you don't-
signing
it's
that
strange that you don't-
warrant every
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
But I do not remember seeing an explicit engagement letter.
Okay.
So, so I think we're the ones that are going to, you know, go
Step in.
forward and do that for next year, for
Yeah,
fiscal year
okay.
21, and present it to the Board of Selectmen. Lynn, you look like you're.
No, I was going to say, I agree with David. And the only other thing you brought up, which was my first question, is the timeline. You know, when do you begin? When does it get selected? And when does it happen?
So,
I don't remember.
Madam Chair,
yes, Laura.
if
Go
I
ahead.
could just share some background experience that I have with audits, being on finance committees of different organizations and audits within them. Prudent fiscal responsibility for an audit or a finance committee is to go out to bid every 3 to 5 years. You don't keep the same management company in because different eyes see different things. I believe that, and I don't know this for a fact, I've never been selectman in Townsend. When Andy and Greg Barnes were here, I don't believe this is the same company as when they were here. And management letters are public record. We should be able to see from year to year. The selectmen should be able to see from year to year what the progress has been within, you know? Okay.
Yeah, so let me just say that if you go to the website now, our beautifully redone website, which is not quite complete yet, but we're trying to get everything up to date, and we will within the next month or so. On the website, under BOS, there are audited financial statements. And what is not there is the financial statements that we're missing a management letter for 2019. The 2019, the FY20 management letter is available, but it hasn't been posted yet, and it had not gone to the Board of Selectmen yet. As of yesterday. So, and then we are also missing audited financial statements for 2016, FY 2017 and 2018, which looks like they were done together, and FY 2019. And then FY20, which I know FY20 is available, but I don't know about the others. So if you go to the website, you'll see that those are missing. That does not mean that they weren't done, that those audits weren't done. It just means that they were not posted on the website, which is not surprising to me at this point. And so that is one of the things on my list to track down and get posted. So we're working on that. There's a lot on the website that is behind the times and needs brought up to current. And my hope is that by the start of the fiscal year, our website will have everything current on it. Just takes time. So, and identifying what is missing. And so so Laura, you're right. It is public record and it is available. And with the exception of those missing letters, it does go back. So I guess what we need to get is the engagement letter with Melanson and Heath and see how many years they've been contracted for. Does that make sense?
It's not really, I agree with Laura. As I told you, I chair the Client Security Board. I have an annual budget of $8 million, and it's part of the Supreme Judicial Court's jurisdiction. So we went out for a competitive bid 2 years ago for auditors, and it is a 3 to 5 year process. You don't really go out for a contract for 3 to 5 years. It's every year, it's renewable. It's not really a 3 year, 4 year, 5 year contract. It's just, you just do it on a year to year basis. Every 3 to 5 years, you should revisit that and get new eyes on it. And it's not a question of the auditing company being incompetent or questionable. It's always good to have new eyes on the books. And that's the state standard that we have is 3 years. So every 3 years we go out for a new audit company and get new eyes on the books to make sure everything is in line. So that's where it's at.
So what we should do is get the engagement letter, see when.
Right. Historically, how many years have they done it consecutively, and then maybe revisit that with another company next year.
All right. So that's something that I can find. All right.
Jim Kryler, he's been the administrator for how many years now?
I believe 2016.
So he would have knowledge of who the auditing company was since his tenure. I would think so, the last 5 years.
Okay,
right?
There's a note. Yes, that would be correct.
Yeah.
And there's a note that Cindy just put in the chat. You can see it. Melanson and Heath did the audit.
Oh, yeah.
FY11 on, according to the
Wow.
website audits. Okay.
That was the last
so-
year of my tenure. So,
All right.
wow,
so-
yeah, it's time to
Let's-
revisit that.
Okay, so revisit the audit firm. And I guess for me, I would like to know the timeline for auditing. I don't really know. Dave or Lynn, do you have any idea? Like, at what point does the town engage the auditors? I mean, that, for all I know, that could have happened last spring before I ever became a selectman,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
I
Right.
don't recall the timeline, sorry.
Lynn? Did Lynn freeze? I thought she was saying something. Lynn, are you there? I think we might have lost her for a minute.
Looks like her image is frozen. Maybe she lost her
Her
feed.
internet.
Oh, there you go.
There, now you're moving again, Lynn. You froze for a second there. What were you saying?
I said, that's what I meant before. We need to find the timeline. When do you start?
Yeah.
Start the audit. When do you start engaging, looking for other auditors? And is there a contract, or like that person said, it's just renewable?
Okay,
What do we have with the company?
okay. So that's, I can look into that if you guys are good with that. I'll find the timeline. So that's number one, the timeline for the audit. That way we know when we have to start looking to bring someone in. So this is actually kind of good timing for fiscal year 21, which is the fiscal year that will be ending on June 30th. So, all right, so I will find the timeline for the audit. I'll see, I will forward to you the emails that I sent Jim, because there were other things that I thought were missing. Expenditure reports and capital asset reports under the accountant page on the website. So it's just that I've been doing website work and identifying where we need to find things. And that's how I found that, so. All right, so timeline for the audit. A copy of the engagement letter for FY 2020. Sorry, I'm writing this down. I will forward you the information that I got yesterday and the questions that I asked Jim. And then we can go from there. Are you good with looking at the FY20 management letter and audit report and presenting it to FinCom and BOS? Dave, you're the only one of us that isn't on either FinCom or BOS. So,
well, why would we need to, if it's already in process, why do we need to present it? That's, I guess it's almost like we're getting on the tail end of this year, and maybe next year is when we take, jump into the driver's seat, so to speak.
start at the beginning and go forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just read 4 and 5 and I thought, okay, what can we do this year? What can we do for next year? I would like to sit down and have us look at the management letter and the report.
Oh, sure.
Because that will help me learn what's in there, what they do in the audit. So
Yeah, I would think that getting a copy of the engagement management letter, as we call it, and maybe one of the more recent audits, just so we can become familiar with it. I mean, the stuff that they do, I mean, I'm not a CPA. I used to play one on TV, but I don't really, I mean, it's probably going to be over. I mean, Lynn's on the finance committee, right? Lynn, I don't know if you have accounting background, but the stuff that they do is maybe beyond our knowledge on a detail level. I don't, just making that statement.
okay.
Well, that's why it's important to find out that timeline
Right.
Mhm.
so that we can set up
Yeah.
exactly the steps we need to go by to
Yeah.
go forward.
It may be time that we need to start jumping on 2021, 2020, 2021, which is, the fiscal year is over, this June 30th, I think it is, right? So maybe now is the time to start for next year. I think Lynn froze up again.
Yeah, I keep going in and out.
Lynn, sometimes if your bandwidth is doing that, if you turn off your video, even though we won't see your face, if you turn off your video, then your audio will be clear and you won't be broken up. It doesn't take as much bandwidth to push the voice.
Mm.
Okay, so so then what I'm seeing is we will review amongst ourselves the management letter and report just for our own understanding of that. We'll get the timeline and figure out what we're going to be doing for the FY21 audit, and we'll go forward from there. I will also get the FY20 engagement letter, or whatever the engagement letter is with Heath and Melanson.
Yeah, I think going back a couple of years, just to compare, it's like Laura just texted us on the chat. Getting it for the last several years probably would be a good, if you can, if they're available.
All right. All right, so I'll go back to say 2017.
Yeah,
That's
I would be
too
interested to see if the town, I would say unfortunately, if the town did contract with this firm, Mellon's, for a period of years as opposed to year by year. And we may not have the ability to select next year if we have a contract with Melanson.
But we would still be able to review the audits with
Right,
them
right.
and work with them over the time. So
Yeah,
yeah, if it's already been engaged, then we just
yeah.
go forward with what we can. All right, so I'm good with that. So does that sound like a plan going forward?
Yeah. No, I think you got it nailed.
Yep.
All right, so then I guess the next thing, I'll write up the minutes for today. We should plan on, based on when I have that could, let's say 2 weeks out for another meeting. I don't know how frequently we want to meet. And then we should also figure out, do we need a chair, a vice chair, and a clerk? Or do we want to rotate the minutes amongst us? And et cetera, those sorts of things.
Yeah, I think the frequency of our meetings should be commensurate with the timeline that we have to, if the timeline starts for next year soon, then we probably meet more frequently. If we already missed it by 10 months, then have a nice summer. We'll see you in the fall.
Right. Okay, all right. So that sounds reasonable to me. Lynn, are you good with that?
Yep.
All right. So what I will do is, I'd like to meet in 2 weeks, if that is good. And that will get, I work best on deadlines. So if I know that we're meeting in 2 weeks, I'll know that I'll have the things that I need for the meeting. So maybe Wednesday the 5th. And Lynn, I don't know if these noontime meetings are good for you. I was trying to find a time before 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And
If we could have it at 11.
Dave, does that fit your
Yep.
schedule?
Yep.
All right, so let's say tentatively, our next meeting then will be at 11 o'clock on Wednesday, May 5th.
Mm-hmm.
And I will work on the timeline and the engagement letters and getting the management letter and the audit report for the past several years to each of you.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
All right. Do we need a chairman? Do we need all that? Or can we just go informally the way we're doing it?
I would prepare to make a motion that you do all three.
Thanks, Dave.
Oh, yeah, all the confidence in you. You're doing a great job.
I mean, I don't mind, for me, the chair is setting up the meeting, doing the agendas. I'm pretty good at that.
Yeah.
The minutes, if we could rotate minutes, I would prefer that only because that takes more time, but I don't
Does
mind
take
doing it. Like today, we had a quick meeting. These are easy minutes for me to write up, and
Yeah,
I don't mind doing that.
I don't see us, open meeting laws require the minutes to show who's there, dispositive motions, how they come out, and adjournment. That's, you don't, I'm a big advocate of less is more, for various reasons in my practice area where we've run into trouble with representing individuals where there's minutes involved, or there's way more that was taken that should have, which causes issues. So, I mean, it literally is, you open it up, identify, like you said, a roll call, who's there, dispositive motions, who made, who seconded, and then adjournment. That's all I really need. So I don't even know if our minutes would be, would be that robust anyways.
Okay,
Mhm.
all
Yeah.
right. All right, then. For now, I accept all three of yours, the motion. And we'll just, less is more. We'll use that as our mantra.
Well, it came out, it was actually when I was on the zoning board, because I've been on it since '94, with a couple of years break. But we had a case with a specific applicant that asked for our minutes, and they were it was before I really got my hands on it, during the beginning of my tenure there, and it was a bad result. Just superfluous discussion that had no bearing on the outcome they used against the town. So not a good thing. So,
Okay. All right. So
yeah, 11 o'clock on the 5th.
on the 5th. And is there a motion to appoint me to the chair minute position? The
Well, if we-
agenda position.
do we need to have a motion for that, Veronica? I mean, that's up to you.
I have no idea. I'm good without.
Yeah. I mean, usually it's just the team that does it, so.
There's only
Yeah.
3 of us. We have a specific purpose. It's
Right, it's not like it's one of the other town boards that has a lot more involvement going,
all right, then let's keep it at that. I'll set the agendas. I'll make sure we're posted, and I'll get the links and go for minutes.
Perfect.
Great.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Oh, before you do, Lynn, can you after you turned off your audio, your video, is it better for you? Could you hear better?
No, I could hear just fine. It still makes my system freeze, so.
Well, your voice is clear. Veronica, you could say that her voice is much more clear with the video off.
For us, it is, Lynn, because before we couldn't hear when you were talking. We'd have to, it was harder to hear you. Here, you're very clear now.
Yeah.
It just froze
We
again.
just can't see you. Well, but we don't know you're frozen. We can hear you still. When
Yeah.
you would freeze before, we couldn't hear you either.
Oh,
Yeah, we
Yeah.
wouldn't hear you at all. So here, we can hear you clearly.
okay.
So.
Yeah, so it's a matter of increasing your bandwidth, or maybe getting a Wi-Fi extender in your house, wherever you're at.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right, motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
It's a second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Veronica, thank you for setting this up.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much for being willing to be on the committee, both of you, and we'll see you on the 5th.
Sounds like a
Okay,
plan.
thank you.
All right, guys, have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.